Hi, I'm Amy from Mare Wellness and Myofascial Release. In this video, we're going to cover the squat exercise. And this is not a squat for strength or power. This is more of a squat for realignment. In my practice, I see over and over again that especially women tend to have their knees very much out of alignment. And I believe this is a result of our culture, because we're often taught to have our knees together or to cross our legs, especially when we're sitting. A lot of seats also tend to have scoop seats, and we tend to have wider hips, and so that turns everything inward, and our knees get out of alignment with that experience of sitting over and over and over and over and over again. So this exercise will help to realign your joints, rebalance the muscles, and create more balanced strength in the lower body to help prevent feet, calf, knee, hip, and low back issues. And as always, whenever everything in your lower body is in better alignment, everything in your upper body will be in better alignment as well. So, one of the best things to have with you is a chair. You don't necessarily need one, but if you do have some weakness in your lower body, having a chair or a target to help support you will make things a little bit easier. So for example, if you go to sit down in a chair and towards the end you kind of plop, then use something to build up that surface so that you can lower down as far as you possibly can and still feel comfortable. So what I want you to focus on in this exercise is getting your feet right underneath the hip bones. So feel those bones, and then notice if your feet are pretty close to right underneath them. And then the feet should also be pointing straight forward. And if you think about the long bones of the feet, or even for some of us the outside of our feet, but really focus on the long bones pointing straight forward. And if you're used to standing more in an externally rotated position, then that's going to feel really abnormal. It's also, if your knees are already turned in a little bit, your knees are going to feel really turned in. So if your knees are pointing a little bit in or towards each other, then use the strength in your thighs to rotate them out so that the knees come into a position where they're pointing straight ahead. Now, the kneecap can get a little bit out of alignment, so the best way to know if your knees are in the right position is the tendons in the back of your knee. They should be straight up and down parallel and not turned out to the sides. They should all be up and down. Okay, so use that strength to pull those. You'll pull your knees forward. You'll probably feel your arches coming up just a little bit, but feel most of the weight in your heels and the balls of your feet lightly touching down to help maintain balance. The next thing to focus on is your hips. They should not be tucked under. If you think about the bones at the front of your hips and then feeling the pelvic bone, they should fall in the same plane. So if your pelvic bone is too far forward, then you're tipped under too much. If the top bones are more forward than the pelvic bones, then you're untucked too much. You want to try to bring them so they're in a nice neutral position. That means you should have a nice low back curve, and your tailbone should be a little bit angled, and if you had a little flashlight on it, it would be pointing a little bit behind you. So coming to your chair in that position and feel the chair on the backs of your legs. What that does is keeps the knees from going too far forward. Many times in a squat, you'll see people bringing the knees forward and going down. That can put a lot of stress on your knee joints. So we want to keep the knees back over the ankles as much as possible. And when you lead your squat motion, lead it with your tailbone. So the tailbone is the first thing to move in this exercise. So bringing your tailbone back, keeping the weight in your heels, going down as far as you possibly can, and then coming back up. And it may not be very far at all when you first get started. But leave that, keep the knees back as much as you can, never let them go over past your toes, dropping down and coming back up. Also thinking about keeping the upper body as upright as possible. Not going way down like this, but trying to keep your body upward, slowly lowering down. When you're first doing this, it might feel helpful to keep your arms forward to counterbalance your body a little bit. Eventually you'll bring your arms in. You can place your hands on your thighs as well. Sometimes that's helpful to make sure that when you're doing your squat, your knees aren't coming in towards each other. You're using the strength, again, to keep the knees pointing straight forward as you squat down and come back up. Weight in the heels, squat down, come back up. Again, having a chair there gives you a little more of a sense of safety. If you're really used to having your weight forward in your feet, bringing your weight in your heels can make you feel a little imbalanced, like you're going to tip backwards. But you can change that sensation very quickly with a little effort. Coming back up, down. Now as you get better, more confident, stronger in your lower body, you can go to a surface that is a little bit lower. Working on that lowering down until you touch that surface and then come back up. Keeping the knees in line, keeping the feet pointing forward and come back up. And it's not about speed, it's not about power, it's about alignment, really feeling what good alignment feels like in your lower body. And then working on that strength, coming down, touching that surface and coming back up. And eventually you can get to a lower and lower surface, but knowing the lower that you go, the more the knees are going to have to start coming forward. But again, you never want them coming forward past the feet unless you're going down into a full squat. And then back up, keeping the knees, don't let the knees fall in towards each other. Keeping them out over the ankles and then pushing back through the heels to come back up. Now you can practice that squat in a very functional way. If you bring to mind every time you go to sit down in a chair to keep the feet forward, the knees over the ankles, slowly sit down with the tailbone leading, you can get multiple squats in a day. If you can, sprinkle a few throughout your day, a couple repetitions before you finally sit down to settle into working at your computer or sitting down on your couch even. But working as many squats as you can in every single day is incredibly good for your body. Okay, I'd like to demonstrate from a straight on view as well. So sitting back in your chair, getting your feet about hip width, knees pointing forward, and then slowly pushing up through the heels. And then when you go to the downward motion of the squat, lead with the tailbone, keeping the knees apart. And as many repetitions as you can get in per day, the better. Again, we're training the knees to point in the right direction, the hinge joint working in the alignment that it was designed to be in, to rebalance the muscles in the lower legs, get the joints in the best alignment, and as a result, everything should start functioning better and feeling better.